Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Wellness Wednesday. We started doing this series a few weeks ago with special guests. Before that, we had been just sort of talking about Pure Haven and the benefits of Pure Haven. But we really wanted to bring you all some more wellness topics. And one of the things that was top of mind for me as a mom, as we head into this new school year, it's a really different school year than it's been ever before. And we got a little taste of that starting in March. But have been thinking about and trying to find somebody to sort of speak a little bit to the whole remote learning situation. And I was at a networking group and we were doing speed networking. And I got put into this room, and this had been sort of ruminating, and I'd been thinking about who do I find to do this, and I got put into this room, and it was like the universe said, here you are, here is the person you need to talk to. And I met Kaydi, and I was so excited. Kaydi is a former educator, comes from an education background, teaching middle school, and a mom of two, and recently started a blog because she kept hearing chatter about, as we all have, about remote learning and the sort of trials and tribulations. So I asked Kaydi if she would come and talk to us, and I have linked her Facebook page, but we'll also link her website in the comments. And I am going to ask Kaydi just to share a little bit about her journey with this whole crazy new world of remote learning, and maybe some things that she's found to be helpful or that she's talked about, and just a little bit about I went to your blog, and you have some great resources. I love that you have sort of a template for taking hikes and things like that. So can you just tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Beth, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here and chatting with this group. It would be so much more fun if we could all go out and grab a coffee together and actually meet each other, but that's
Yes.
not My name is Kaydi McQuade. I was an educator. I have a master's in special education, and I taught in public middle schools in New Hampshire and Rhode Island over the course of 12 years. I stopped teaching full-time when my kids were younger, and it just made more sense for our family. I'm not currently working as a teacher. But when everyone was sent home in March, I noticed that for the first week or so, we were just kind of in a holding pattern. We were thinking like, oh, well, everything's going to go back to normal. There's going to be an announcement in a week or two, and then we're just going to go right back. We'll go to soccer practice, and we'll go back to the plays. Will be a couple of weeks later, but the show must go on, and everything will happen.
Right.
And then after a while, that started to feel really crazy, right? Because
Right.
nothing on the news was looking like that was going to happen. And we had already found out at that point that we were remote for the rest of the year. And then I was looking at what my kids were doing. And the schools, I have to say, really did an amazing job in our town. I have absolutely no criticism. They reinvented the plane while they were flying it, trying to be home with their own families. And so there's no criticism there, but there's no one in the world that will say that, a Zoom class is equivalent to a full day at school with all the social interactions. So I just really consciously started trying to make sure that I was supplementing what my kids were doing to help them out, so that it just wasn't a waiting period, and that it was actually a time that there was still some growth happening for them.
Yes.
And it just was it's very nerve-wracking. It's really anxiety provoking, right? All of this uncertainty, all of this stress and change and fear, and those are all really real feelings for parents and for kids. And so I just started trying to figure out how to build a resource that could help, that could form some community around every conversation that I had with every friend, every person I know. Most of my colleagues, everyone was just, what are you going to do about school?
Yes.
What are you going to do about, distance learning? How are you handling the Zooms? And I don't know, but many heads put together are going to be better than one. So started building out 8th grade adults with the idea that, the goal is that our children become great adults. I don't need them to be super obedient, super pliable kids, right? It would be great, but they're not gonna. I'm more interested in helping them develop the skills. And I think schools are so important for all that social emotional learning, all of that, executive function, where they're learning
Right.
organization skills, where they're figuring out how to interact in groups and communicate with other people, have discussions when they don't agree with something. And none of that is happening in the distance.
Right.
So that's where we are. And that's, what we've created so far. I'm hoping to build it out as a community and really get more interactive with it. So opportunities like this where I can speak with people. We've just launched a book club that I encourage you to join. It'll be virtual like everything else, but I picked out a book, and we picked a date in September that I hope it works for people, and I'd love to hear what works and what doesn't.
So tell us about that first book. What book did you choose?
The first book is called Rage Against the Minivan.
Okay.
It is, the tagline on that is parenting freed from perfection. And the whole idea is that it's a place where families can be real without having to, there was always like the exterior facing thing, right? That what is the group look like? What is the, what are my kids wearing? What is everyone doing? And the idea with this is that like we can move away from that. The woman who wrote it, Kristen Howerton, I hope I'm saying her name right. She's a blogger and a podcaster, and she's got some very funny podcasts. So, I can definitely drop her contact into the chat. But the book struck me, it just came out in June, and it struck me as just being like, we're home with these kids and we're seeing them in a way that we didn't months ago. And so let's move away from perfection. Let's take some of the pressure off ourselves, because we're all trying to juggle homes and life and uncertainty and change and our kids and what they're learning and all and let's take something off the table to make it a little bit more manageable. Yay!
Yeah. Jen just posted the name of the book in the chat, so perfect. Everybody has it. So virtual learning this fall, what is your school system doing, and what are your plans, and is there anything that you figured out that was really helpful to you during sort of that initial period that is a great takeaway for things that you might have gleaned from other parents or other educators? Like, what was particularly helpful to you in this sort of crazy time of, oh, we're only doing this for a couple weeks. Oh, wait, no, this is our life now.
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing is that structure and flexibility are both equally important, right? We need to build time in to manage all the activities of daily living, right? I mean, down to the super basic shower, making food, eating food, those really basic functions. We also have that overlaid with, there's some district requirements that we got in terms of like what times the kids had to log on to certain classes. We don't know what that's going to look like this year. So building in structure, and it can be built on the fly. It can be done, like, okay, we're just going to build the structure for Thursday, right? And so know what tomorrow looks like. And if we have to revise and adapt, we will. It's important to know your kids, right? Like they're all going to be different, right? There's going to be different strategies that are going to work for an early elementary school kid or a preschooler that would be totally different than what you would have to do with upper elementary, middle school, high school, or older. I know a lot of families had college age kids that got bounced back home. And their challenges are very real too. Hi, cutie.
This is Cash.
So, there's that flexibility again, where it's like, we're in a different setting. The dog is going to walk in. The cat might jump across the keyboard. The kids are going to come in.
Absolutely. The neighbor will be mowing their lawn.
The neighbor. Right. All of those things are and it's important to know that one of the things that we're doing is modeling for our kids how you deal with adversity, how you deal with upheaval, how you deal with the best laid plans not going according to plan. And that resilience is really critical life skills. Those are the people that are able to dust themselves off and get back up. And that's what we all hope for our kids, is that they will be those people who can be successful kind of no matter what life throws at them, right? So you don't want them to face a lot of headwinds, but they might. And so this period in time is a time that we're all facing headwinds. And I keep emphasizing to everyone that I talk to, and I want to say it again, and I feel like I'm banging this drum over and over again. None of us know what is happening. None of us has lived through a pandemic. None of us has the latest data or even enough data on what the virus is doing or what that means. No, we're all taking partial information and making the best decisions that we can. And so please, 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 even when you're stressed, even when you're frightened, even when you're angry, even when you're frustrated, like, try to find kindness for the kids, for other parents, for colleagues, people that we work with. They may be dealing with things that we don't know about, right? And so it's very easy to feel like, this is so much worse than, the way I have it is so much worse than the way you have it, because I have a 20-month-old and a 3-year-old. That's bad, yes. But it's also bad for the parent who's watching their 8th grader not get to graduate middle school, right?
Absolutely.
Or their high schooler not get to try out for the lead in the play, or, any of these things, right? The people who are struggling or, have work stress involved as well. Like, those things are all real. Please be kind. Nobody knows what's right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
and that ties into another really big important piece of self-care, which is, they always say, like, when you're in a plane crash, right, you're supposed to put your own mask on first before you help the person next to you. That's critical, right? You cannot not charge yourself and then hope to give anything, right? You can't drain yourself down and hope to be of any help to anyone else. So whatever it is, you better than anyone else, right? So if it's doing yoga, if it's binging on red wine and popcorn and watching Netflix movies once a week, like, do it. Whatever it is that you need to do, obviously be responsible, but like, take care of yourself, right? Call friends, check in with people, or hide out alone if you're more on the introvert side. I'm not.
Right.
Some people really need that recharge alone, and with everyone together, there's not.
Yeah. So it's hard on both sides, because you have the introverts who need the time alone and they're with their family 24 hours a day. Then you have the extroverts who are used to being out with friends and can't get that. So it's hard on everybody. And one of the other things, I was talking to one of my team members who will probably be watching this tonight, and just respecting, and you touched on this, and it's so important, respecting the decisions that other people are making. She was talking to me about how Massachusetts is now requiring the flu vaccine, even for kids who are doing the distance learning, who may be coming in later in the year, and having to make those choices about this vaccination that never has been required before. And, what do you do in that instance? And just, I think, respecting whatever everyone else's viewpoints are, and knowing we're all sort of coming to it from different places, and whatever your decision is okay for you. And I'm going to respect that and still be your friend. I feel like there's so many keyboard warriors right now just making
we don't have too much time on social media. Get off Facebook, but not now, not until 7:30.
Right, not until after we're done. But that sort of, like, sometimes you see things and you have to sort of take a deep breath and remember, this person's coming to this from a different place than you are, and they're making the best decisions they can with the information they have. And as you said, none of us understand this, or we can't. we're in the middle of it, and you can't sort of have that 2020 hindsight, look back and go, oh, well, you know, this was the right thing to do, or this was the right thing to do. It's really, we're living it. So,
Remember that when 2020 was good? That was what you wanted?
yeah, exactly. Um, so, so you have the book club going. What else, what other plans do you have going for the blog and building out this community? Tell me a little bit more about that.
So the blog is growing. That is, I'll be continuing to post there with ideas and strategies, tactics, things that are working. I am chatting with. So I have a son who's going into 4th grade and a daughter who's going into 7th grade. So I've got that, sort of upper elementary, middle school on lock. I'm chatting with friends who have older kids and who have younger kids to try to bring in some more content that would be of value to those families.
That's wonderful.
And again, it's so hard because everyone's family is different. So, what's right for a family that's got a 3-year-old, but maybe both parents or the only parent that's in the house might have to work outside of the home is going to be different from somebody who's able to work remotely and can maybe just shift things around. And
Right, right.
or there's a lot of families where people have lost jobs, and
Yeah.
the silver lining there is it frees you up to help support distance learning, but that's not much of a silver lining when the bills are due. So,
We're pretty busy telling people we can help them out with that. So that's kind of a benefit of this group, is that if you are looking for some extra income, we can certainly help you with that. So what are you sort of hearing about that college age? I don't know how many of the parents in here. I have some people talking about younger kids. And then also, are you hearing from people that they're college age kids? I've seen a lot of people going back, which I thought was pretty exciting. I was happy to see freshmen who were starting the school at their dorms this year, because I was a little nervous about that not happening. And I know my son is going back completely remotely. He's going into his junior year. But we told him, you are staying in Las Vegas. You're not coming home, which he's happy about. He likes it there. He wants to be with his friends and out in Las Vegas, but all the classes are remote still. Are you sort of getting a sense of that from the people you've talked to, or are you sort of mostly catching what the folks your kids' ages are?
I've been speaking with a bunch of people who, and I don't know that it's necessarily, representative sampling, but a bunch of the people that I've spoken with a couple of folks who, when they had rising freshmen, they've opted to go to their safety school, which is a state school, and therefore way less expensive. And they're figuring, when they're getting their gen eds anyway, and they don't know if it's going to be on site or remote, they may as well do that at a much more affordable price point than,
Sure.
The dream school. Even if they got in, they're deferring that for a year, and waiting to see how that's happening. But a lot of the students who are already spend some time there, they want to be there in their communities. So I have heard from several who are going back and staying in their dorms, even though that does mean that they're going to have to quarantine when they come back with their families, or they won't necessarily, I have a niece who's at the Naval Academy, and they're just on lock. They're just,
wow.
So there's a whole bunch of different, I think she's a cousin, I don't think she's a niece, but anyway, there's a whole bunch of different ways that people are doing it. There are also, some folks who are deferring, who are taking time and saying, I don't want to do this and not be able to do it.
Right, because it's such a different experience. I mean, that whole college experience, that getting away from home and really being immersed in that college atmosphere, sort of having to do that online. My daughter graduated from college, and her best friend posted a picture today It was very cute. It was like a little board that said first day of school, and he was sitting at his computer, and he had taken several years off but is now starting to go back as a freshman, and this is his year to go back, and he's doing it remotely. So between my son's friends and my daughter's friends, I'm seeing a lot of that age.
That's a group that's really not getting a lot of attention that I think probably does need attention. The ones who graduated either class of 2020, 2019, maybe even 2018, where they just would have been graduating college, right? Where they would have just been doing their first, internships or their first, entry-level positions to get their feet in the door. And
Right.
that's, in terms of a career trajectory, those first couple of years are so critical.
Yeah, and this is brutal. My daughter's friends are seeing a lot of that. Luckily, she got a job as a copy editor with a North Dakota paper, but she decided that she's moving back to Rhode Island, and they are so in need of people that they've asked her to work remotely from Rhode Island to do copy editing for Bismarck, North Dakota. So I am super excited, but she said a lot of her friends are dealing with that. They got their dream job out of college, ups, the job's not there. We have a really dear friend from church who is starting at a brokerage firm in New York City, and that's all sort of not what he expected it to be. And he had worked really hard interning for a few years in college, and now it's a lot different than expected. So yeah, I think every age is tough. I mean, you look at these little munchkins going back and just
masks in the
yes. Yeah, and having their desks 6 feet apart from each other, and not having recess in a traditional way, and not having lunch in a traditional way, and sort of all those things that you think of as rites of passage for little kids to sort of start their educational experience. And so, yeah, it's hard for everybody. Are you seeing any uptick from what you're from sort of the all age groups in the, I know there's a couple in here who have opted to pull their kids from school altogether and do homeschooling? Are you sort of seeing that, and are you addressing that or looking to address that at all in the blog?
I will be. So what's happening is, specifically in Rhode Island, we've been kept in a pretty significant waiting game. As to what it's going to look like. And that's, everyone's trying to make the best and safest decisions. And there are a lot of stakeholders that are pushing in different directions, and everyone's making the best decisions that they can with the information that they have. But we're in a situation where, the start date of school was supposed to be on this upcoming Monday. That's now when we're going to get the decision if the districts are going to do any in-person, or if it's going to be all virtual or some partial plan. The district's plans, even for, like, I know we're in Lincoln, and our full immersion is 2 days a week. I think for the elementary school they've got some more availability, but that would impact other things. It's very confusing. I think a lot of people, I know it's probably somewhere around a third of people are just pulling their kids out. They've got people that are medically fragile in the house, or the children themselves are. There's some reason why it's just not working, the upheaval. Listen, there are people who are buying RVs and planning to go, distance learn on the road, and that's mazel tov, right?
Yeah,
but,
that sounds great.
Take me with you. But, so there's all sorts of different choices that people are making. I think that until the plan is finalized, until probably the night before the first day of school, we're not going to really know how many families are going to keep their kids home. Because I think there is something to be said for that social emotional piece. Kids miss their friends.
Absolutely.
They miss them. They want to get away from their siblings who are driving them insane. They want to get out of the house where they've been stuck for 6 months. So all of those are very real concerns. I mean, if you had asked me in June when all the numbers were dropping, I would have been like, oh yeah, they're going back full time. And, then sort of in the summer, it was like, maybe we'll go back at a half capacity. And, and I still, honestly, for myself, I don't know what choice I'm going to make. And I am very flexible, and I'm very fortunate. And I recognize the fact that I feel confident in my ability to support their education and provide them with enrichment. So for me, it's more about them missing that social piece. And I've spoken with people who are like, I'm not a teacher. I don't know how to do this. I don't know what to do.
Right.
Which is, more complicated if you've got younger kids who can't do as much of the work independently, or if you've got kids who have special needs where they need some more specific supports. And I am fully cognizant that is a challenge for a lot of people. And,
So what type of, so speaking of enrichment, any great tips for enrichment with kids that you're sort of working on for the blog, or that you've done with your own kids, that is, we have this opportunity. So obviously this has been, as we've already discussed, pretty harrowing on everyone, but there are opportunities that are a little bit different and for kids. What are you kind of embracing, and what are you seeing other people embrace that's been different than sort of the traditional learning?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say there's really three things that I've been leaning into the most. The first is the development of specific skills or passions. So if a kid loves playing guitar, they all of a sudden have 6 to 8 additional hours per day where they can be practicing. And there's unbelievable resources. It's still online, but where you can, get tutorials, things like that. If they love computers, let them learn how to program, let them learn how to code. Again, more time than they've ever had. So specific skill development for things that are in their interests. I am also pushing very hard, and I suggest that everyone does life skill development. This is a time they should be learning to cook. This is a time that they should be learning some basic woodworking, auto repair, whatever the family knows how to do. There's things. We had a child who will remain nameless who dropped something into the door that was of the car that was rattling around, and we watched a YouTube video and figured out how to take the panel off the inside of the door, take it out, and fix it.
Wow.
Those things are it took time. I'm sure a body shop could have done it in 8 seconds, and I took 2 hours, but those specific skills. Cooking is an unbelievable skill for life. You don't want a kid to move out of their house at the age of 18 in a day and have, ramen and TV dinners and takeout as their only options, right? And it's something that a small child might be just able to hold the cup and dump it in or stir. An older child might be able to pick out a recipe that seems appealing and make the grocery list for it, or actually gather the ingredients and prepare it. A teenager could make the entire family dinner one night a week.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I love that. Mine actually went, he has 3 friends in the neighborhood. They all hang out together. So they're sort of they've been hanging out together for the last month or so. We've kind of loosened it up with those 3 friends. And so he's sleeping over their house, one of their houses tonight. And so, but yeah, we have not pushed that as much. And I love that idea, because that's something that can be really important.
The last one that I'm really pushing is get outside in nature. So with little kids, maybe you're just squatting next to a log when you flip it over and watch the roly-polies crawl out. With older kids, maybe they're doing camping by themselves, whether it's in the backyard or if you go to a park, it's great distance stuff. Hikes are wonderful opportunities for families to be out there. The sheet that I have up on the website is it's like a tool to help them observe. And the younger kids can draw pictures, the older kids can write more detailed stuff, but with the idea of taking them back to the same places in different seasons, in different months. And so when we were here last time, we heard a lot of buzzing, right, from the cicadas or the crickets.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing that now, but I'm hearing a lot more of the geese that are migrating now, right? So what am I hearing? So those are 3 things that I really highly recommend, right? Following interests down the rabbit holes and really digging into to learn them, learning how to do the activities of daily living that they'll really want as adults, because they're home now, and they can see it and be a part of it, and get outside in nature.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like.
Great tips. I am checking to see if anybody on Facebook has any questions. Um, Jen said that all it takes the adult to have the patience for teaching the kiddos to cook. True. She also has a newborn, so I don't blame her at all.
You know, when my kids were 4 months old, I used to stick the bumbo, the little seedy thing that they sit in.
Yes.
I used to stick that on the counter, and they would literally sit there, and I'd give them like a wooden spoon, and they'd be whacking. I mean, like chewing
Yes.
on it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Probably should have been silicone, I know, but whatever. And
It's
then
okay.
when they were older, they'd be playing on the floor underfoot, you know, and coming up through it. It is way messier and slower to do it with kids first.
Absolutely.
And now my 12-year-old makes meals for us
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
knows how to clean up afterwards. So
Great. So Trina said when COVID hit and the kids came home, we watched one child online all day and the other finishing work in a few hours a day. And it made her realize the opportunity to homeschool opens up so many more hours of the day to add these things in that we're discussing: life skills, passion skills, unschooling with what they are into at the moment. So yeah, absolutely. And I think so. Trina and I both have kids at the same stable. So we have kids sort of developing that passion. And she just started her other one in golf lessons. So
cool.
yeah, lots of really fun opportunities. And like you said, being outside, when I was going to go in my office tonight and I just could not bear the thought of going inside to do this. So I have been out here despite, too much sounds and dogs barking, but that's all right. It's beautiful out here and it's a great place to chat. I just want to check and make sure nobody else had any questions or comments. So
Jump on and shoot me a note. Like I like to think of myself as being pretty approachable. So if you
you are very approachable.
either on the website, the makegreatadults.com website, or on
Mhm.
facebook.com/makegreatadults. I think what you said, the link is up there.
It is.
Shoot me a question,
Yeah.
or just commiserate. Like honestly, like just hearing each other and responding
Yeah.
to the fact that we're all in this thing that is pretty overwhelming. That's sometimes enough.
Absolutely. And I think also, going back to, if we are open enough to respect other people's viewpoints and opinions on what they're doing, sometimes you may look at someone's choice and go, that's crazy. I would never do that. But then in this time, we may sort of open up a little bit to some of those things and change our minds and, think about new ways of doing things. We are actually in a charter school. And so it'll be interesting to see how different that is than the rest of the schools, but it's put us in sort of that whole, or me at least as a parent, into that whole idea of letting them pursue their own passions much more readily, which has been nice because it's something I've been thinking about for years. The school administration was super open to my son starting a jazz band, and they hired someone to run the jazz band when he was into that. So I think just sort of seeing when a child has something that they're interested in and allowing that and figuring out, like, and sometimes it can come from something that's not so fun, like trying to figure out how to open up a door panel. But being a cool experience, that's awesome. I would never.
Oh, you bet I made him sit there with me the whole time.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Jen said that she's taking music classes outside, and then Trina posted the name of your website again so that we have that. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Kaydi. It really was a pleasure. And I think just remembering that we are all in the same situation, no matter what our choices are and what we decide to do about it. We've all been thrown for a loop. Everything we thought made sense a year ago is not making sense anymore. So it's really nice to have a place to sort of focus on that with other parents. And we appreciate you coming and giving us some great ideas and suggestions. And I, for one, will definitely be grabbing that book and checking out your book club. So that's
Meeting up again
awesome.
in September. We're gonna chat. We're gonna see what
Yeah.
everyone thought about it. I haven't read it
Yeah.
yet myself, so it's not like I know the answers.
It sounds like a fabulous book. I love it. So thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you so much, Kaydi, and look forward to seeing more on your blog from other contributors and from you. And I'm so glad I met you. I'm so glad that the universe was like, here's your person. We figured this out for you. You don't need to find someone for that week. We've got you covered. So that worked out well. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated it.
Bye-bye.